Controversy continues to trail the Electoral Act amendment bill presently being considered by the Nigerian legislature. The bill proposes far-reaching changes to the act, targeted at making the country's electoral process more transparent. However, eyebrows have been raised over attempts by some members of the National Assembly to tinker with the bill to favor politicians, instead of improving the right of voters to choose those that govern them in free and credible polls. According to reports, House Speaker Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila during plenary on Tuesday urged members to show up today so they can make contributions to the bill. To discuss the fireworks expected to ensue today at the National Assembly, as well as the rejection of Lauretta Onochie's nomination as National Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, we're now being joined by the Executive Director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, Auwal Musa Rafsanjani. Welcome to the program, Mr. Rafsanjani. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Rafsanjani. Let's start with two issues that we had discussed this morning. The first is the decision to suspend the proposed anti-media bills on the Press Council and also the National Broadcasting Commission Amendment Act Amendment Bill. Do you think that the suspension makes sense, or that those bills should just be abandoned for whatever it is worth? And then secondly, Lauretta Onochie, we've also been discussing her this morning, the decision of the Senate to reject her nomination as a proposed member of the INEC Commission as a commissioner. The committee of the Senate on INEC is citing Section 14, subsection 3 on federal character. But some people hold the opinion that, look, she shouldn't even have been nominated in the first place. What do you think?
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers.
Good morning.
Let me first and foremost congratulate Nigerians for demanding and insisting that right thing be done with respect to the nomination of Madam Lauretta. It is a pity that the drivers of democracy in Nigeria, they are the beneficiary of democracy, but they are the very ones that are actually truncating the popular wish and aspiration of Nigerians by imposing those undemocratic, unconstitutional, ways of imposing themselves. Democracy is about people. It's about people choices. If you, as a representative of the people, you will go and ignore the yearning and aspiration and the demands for Nigerians, it means that you are representing yourself at the expense of public funds. So Nigerians have spoken. They have cited relevant, legal provision that made them to reject or to demand that the nomination and confirmation of the Madam Lauretta is stepped down. The Constitution is very clear. The nomination of commissioners into INEC are very, very clear. First and foremost, the Constitution is very clear because it's supposed to be a neutral institution, a neutral agency that is not supposed to be seen to be biased or promoting or supporting a particular political party or a particular government. Because if you do that, you will have truncated confidence of Nigerians and even those other political parties that are contesting the election. So that is why the Constitution to the nomination of members of the INEC is very clear that the person must not be involved in political parties or political activism. Number two, it has to be somebody with sound and impeccable character. If you look at these two very important provisions, it has disqualified candidate in question. Because if you recall very well, this is a person that is unrepentant propagandist of the ruling party and Mr. President. And if you bring her an agency that is supposed to be neutral, that is supposed to be for everybody, that is supposed to be seen to be independent, then you will have truncated confidence of Nigerians to believe that there will not be free, fair, credible election. And that is why, in the first place, her nomination was actually, not even expected. A government that's actually talking about transparency, accountability, and rule of law, because it's a clear violation of our law to nominate somebody that she is a card-carrying member, she is a well-known protagonist of the ruling party, to appoint her, to nominate her to such kind of body that is supposed to be neutral, unbiased, independent, and above all, have Nigerians and even the international community believe that that agency is going to be fair in its dealings on the electoral process. A lot of Nigerians oppose this vehemently based on this legal basis and based on moral superiority argument that listen, when she get there, Nigerians will have perception that she is going to actually help to rig the election. She is going to help to manipulate the electoral process. She's going to help to create uncertainty and total disbelief for Nigerians to believe that that agency is going to organize free, fair, credible election. So that, with that perception and with that legal provision that actually disqualified her, many Nigerians, civil society groups, and a lot of even political parties came out to openly oppose the nomination. So the National Assembly must at all times respect the yearning and aspiration of Nigerians when it comes to representation, when it comes to lawmaking, when it comes to carrying out their legislative responsibilities. The Constitution is very clear. So there should not be any room to maneuver or to play intelligence of Nigerians. If you continue to do that, Nigerians will never believe that 2023 and beyond will be conducted in an atmosphere that will be free, fair, credible. And a lot of Nigerians will believe that electoral manipulation and violence and commercialization is what is going to be the center at 2023. The second thing is that the government had actually retooled this lady because she has been a very, very supportive of the government. They neglected her. They did not compensate her for anything like other people who have worked very hard in 2015 and 2019 to bring in this government. She has been relegated to virtually nothing apart from giving her tax to be fighting and insulting Nigerians for expressing their contrary view about the government. I thought it would be wise. It would be wiser, just like they have compensated, her mates who have been fighting and struggling for the ruling party and the president. They should have found something that is not controversial, that can be doing work with Mr. President directly or for the party. But to bring her to a neutral place, a place that is supposed to be independent, I think they have planned to ridicule her like she has been ridiculed, because by her rejection overwhelmingly by Nigerians, you have succeeded in ridiculing her. So that is number one. Number two, the Senate should not in any pretense deny the fact that Nigerians are the one who say, look, we do not think it is proper to bring somebody that will compromise this institution, that will make Nigerians not live with whatever the outcome of that place. So it is not about just the issue of her state has two representations. It is about the fact that there's a gross violent violation of the law stipulating nomination of somebody to be in that commission. Secondly, it is also about the fact that her character, her behavior, does not comfort Nigerians that when she is there, she's going to be free, fair, in all her activities. So I think, for me, democracy is about people, it is about the choice of Nigerians, and it is about respecting the wishes and aspirations of Nigerians. And the Senate, the National Assembly, should no longer be entertaining such kind of issue. And the executive, they themselves, especially this executive that talks about, sanitizing governance, should not be seen to be pushing things that will give Nigerians impression that this government, it is just a Chua government. I think it is important that the government, in its conduct, in its activities, do things that will give Nigerians confidence that yes, we are indeed a serious governance business, not come and be doing things that will make Nigerians have doubt on them. So this is the reason that Nigerians actually, overwhelmingly rejected her nomination, because rightly or wrongly, Nigerians have believed that her coming there is going to simply help to its uncertainty of lack of confidence in the electoral institution. And also, by extension, Nigerians believe that she's going to manipulate, she's going to rig it, she's going to do anything that will undermine the credibility of the election. And I think that is the reason why Nigerians were afraid that her nomination, and given the fact that has also contradicted the constitutional provision on how a person should be nominated, to be in INEC. Those are the reason why Nigerians have no option than to respect that a popular aspiration of Nigerians. So that's on the Lauretta. And, I think, also it is important that the National Assembly, as we are moving amend the Electoral Act, they need to ensure that they also do things that will make Nigerians believe in democracy and also in the electoral process. The two major controversial issues that Act amendment is presenting to Nigerians has a serious implication. The implication for the proposed increase in the campaign spending is clearly, giving an impression that the country is out to legalize monetization and privatization of the electoral process. It is a very dangerous scenario, especially for those honest, decent Nigerians who have no godfather, but want to ensure that governance are sanitized in this country. The second issue is that it will also give Nigerians the impression that the electoral process is not there to promote any good, but to promote corruption in the process. It is also, Nigerians are also having an impression that it is going to create a serious barrier to the participation of especially women, young people, and people with a disability. Because when you commercialize and privatize the electoral process, you alienate people who have not studied or who did not want to steal or who did not want money and violence to get into power. The other aspect that has to do with also the amendment that become very controversial, it has to do with the issues of the electronic transfer of results. There's no way in the election Nigeria should not, be in line or in tune with the modern technology in governance. To allow that to happen, it means that you want to continue to ensure that there will not be any better transparency in the process. It is also, a process that if you actually allow electronic transfer of results, it will also block any fraudulent manipulation of results, like we've seen, how people always do during the election. And, we also think it is also going to significantly minimize or remove errors in collection of results. These are major problems that we continue to encounter in our, electoral process, and especially when it comes to transmission of results. We also know that part of the benefit of this is it is going to also remove delay in declaration of results, which is usually due to the manual computation, but we believe that this process will also help to improve and ensure more efficiency in the electoral process. So these are some of the reasons why many Nigerians are not happy with the ongoing conversation with regard to the amendment doing, because it all went contrary with the public hearing that Nigerians have canvassed. Nigerians have also canvassed strongly the diaspora voting. A lot of Nigerians are living outside Nigeria and they are contributing significantly to the economy, but they have been alienated from participating in the electoral or political process. Other countries like Niger, Chad, they do diaspora voting. So when you make the process transparent and accountable, it is possible that situation can improve and people can have confidence in the electoral process. Again, the appointment of the annexer, Nigerians have conversed that let this power be moved to the actually National Judicial Council, so that they can be unbiased, because the whole idea of having the INEC, membership, is to have people that are not biased. But if the power is with the president can just decide to appoint, his party member or something like that. But if the process is very transparent and it is taken to that appear to be unbiased, to for the president to at least choose one out of three, I think that will give more confidence. Again, Nigerians will have vehemently canvassed gender inclusion in the electoral process. A lot of Nigerian women, have suffered serious...
Mr. Rafsanjani? We appear to have lost you. Mr. Rafsanjani, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Right. I just wanted to come in here and just ask you a question. From what we heard in the Senate, that resounding vote against Lauretta Onochie's nomination, it made me think of that phrase, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, so the people have spoken. And yet it appears that the Senate cannot quite bring themselves to admit that they were the voices of the people, which is exactly what they are elected to do. They feel the need to come up with some explanation that makes no sense, saying that it's because she didn't scale the federal character hurdle, rather than the obvious one, that she did not scale the nonpartisan hurdle. Can you try and, explain what that thinking is and what that portends, what that means for democracy today, when our Senate cannot admit that they did bow to popular opinion, as they should? There's no shame in it, but yet it appears to be that way. Even in the executive, you will certainly recall the furore over the appointment of a lady that was described at the time as President Buhari's niece or relative or something of that nature as the head of collation. After all of that happened, we still had a nomination of a lady like Lauretta Onochie to show that it appears that our leaders really make a virtue of seeming to not listen to the public. What does all that mean?
Well, this is really showing you that the independence of the National Assembly is still, under serious pressure, because whatever they are doing, they want to make sure that they are desperate to please the executive. And the executive don't actually even appreciate them. They don't even recognize that they are doing this, by undermining their own powers to just please the executive. And by implication, they are actually undermining the representation that they are doing. So it is important that the National Assembly, especially the Senate, think about what Nigerians are thinking about them negatively, because there's a negative perception by Nigerians on the National Assembly, and particularly the Senate, because of the manner in which they carry out their relationship with the executive. There appears to be like, and once you be submissive, you will lose the opportunity to do the check and balancing, and you will lose the opportunity to do the law for good governance, peace, and security in the country. Because if it is just to please the executive and the president, I think you will have been undermining your power, and you will have undermined the confidence, the representation, the support that your constituency and the Nigerian people in general have given you to do a work based on the constitutional and legislative provisions that you are empowered to do. So I think what the Senate is doing is simply to undermine their own powers, to undermine their relevance, to undermine the popular wish and aspiration of Nigerians. And there's a greater implication for that. The implication is that Nigerians will continue to see them as truth. Nigerians will continue to see them as bandits or an extension of the executive or houseboy or house girl of the executive, which I think is not good.
Okay, Mr. Rafsanjani, real quickly, I'd like to know your take on the bill passed as regards electoral offences in the Senate. What's your take as regards that?
Well, I think this is one of the things that Nigerians have been canvassing, that look, enough of allowing electoral offences to go without sanction. A lot of big men are the ones that are orchestrating these electoral offences, and they will never be brought to justice. So any attempt that will ensure sanction against any offender, whether sponsor, whether the person who acted it, I think it is important. So we want to see that not only the victims of the political class who are supporting them or who are encouraging them to go and stand up and electoral process. We are not only interested in them being punished, but we are interested also on the sponsors, on the big men and women that do provide them with the weapons, provide them with the drugs, provide them with all sorts of intoxicated that they go and get high and commit those offenses. Because many a times the blame is only to those young victims, young people who the politicians have given money to go and do what they are doing, whether it is box ballot snatching, whether it is disrupting the election, whether it is attacking seeming winner of the particular election. We want the punishment and the sanction to be all inclusive. This is the only way to deter people from doing this, whether the sponsors, whether the people who perpetrated the act. It is important that we deal with that once it is well established that Mr. A or Madam A sponsored those so-called thugs to carry out what they have done. It is important that both of them are punished, because if you just to punish the poor person who probably because of hunger you have given him 1,000 or 500 to go and vandalize election process, and then he or she ended being punished, and the person who is the beneficiary of such kind of action, an irresponsible act, scot free, I think it will not, draw any lesson. I think it is important that, it's very, inclusive. As I said, it should include both the sponsor and the perpetrator, so that we can begin to have some level of sanity in our electoral process. And again, it is important that, those who are in authority, those who are in power and that are contesting election again, it is important clearly spells out how we will manage this, because once you are a governor, a sitting governor,
Okay, looks like we lost connection there, but I get the point that he's trying to make, but my concern is about how, these offenses, this Electoral Offences Commission bill that is being proposed. Yes, the penalties are stiffer. Now you have penalties of about 10 million as opposed to only, Section 119 of the Electoral Act of 2010 as amended, which talks about 10 million. Now in this new bill that the Senate has passed, the average fine is about 10 million or, jail term or both. But the challenge is about implementation. How do you implement it? The test of the law is in its implementation. All the penalties that existed in the existing act, the problem is that they've not been implementing it. INEC does not have the capacity. So how do you strengthen the capacity of INEC to go after electoral offenders. That, for me, is where the big issue is. And as I said earlier on, INEC does not even have enough lawyers. They may even complain about resources. Whereas it is important to show Nigerians that electoral fraud is not acceptable and that the integrity, the credibility of the process is very important. Rafsanjani, are you back with us? Although we're almost running out of time. Well, I don't think.
Yes, I'm back.
Oh,
yes.
You're back. Okay, yes. We lost you for about a minute. Yes. If you could just conclude your thoughts before we move on.
Yeah. So I think it is important that, if we are serious about, democratizing and sanitizing electoral process and to get it free out of manipulation, electoral, control or violence and, electoral fraud, it is important that we do the right thing as a people and as a country. 21 or 22 years of democracy, we cannot continue to lament and continue to complain about issues that we could actually correct them or improve them if there's a political will. I don't think it is thing that is impossible. It is possible once we have the political will to do that. Once we have reduced the money, in the political process, and also ensure that people of impeccable character are the one that will come into the electoral process. Because part of the challenge we have is that you have so many one-chance people, so many 499 people who have looted and explained wealth that have come to commercialize and privatize, the electoral process that make it impossible for decent, responsible Nigerians who want to contribute at local, state, and national level. They have been alienated. So it is important we sanitize that process to allow responsible and quality person to represent us. Without that, you will continue to have this kind of issues. Otherwise, if you have people who are genuine, who are, patriotic, these issues are things that we should have continued. In fact, we should have forgotten about the amendment long ago. This government is, and what we expected from this government is to ensure that the first thing they do to amend the electoral process to make it free of corruption and fraud and violence. But 6 years debating these issues, it's a challenge because the president himself said he was fraud. So I expect that there should be no debate about ensuring that we have responsible electoral process in the country. Thank you
very much, Rafsanjani. Thank you for joining us on the morning show.